Here for Pregame Media. We will get going with Casey Johnson.
Hey, Billy, I'm just wondering if there's a verdict on Otto yet, and also if you have any update on Arch and Lowry back here in Chicago, if they've been able to progress or experience any setbacks or anything like that.
Yeah, so Otto is out tonight, or this afternoon, I should say. He's out, low back, and Arch and Lowry have been able to work out some. They are obviously still in the health and safety protocol, but they have been able to do some things. They have continued to test negative, so hopefully they'll be able to rejoin us when we get back into town, after today's game.
And just as a quick follow-up, given all that's been going on with the league the last 24, 36 hours and other teams, I know you focused on what you can control, but what kind of mental challenge component is there regarding all the COVID stuff for teams and players and coaches?
Well, I mean, I think it's really hard to maybe explain just because there's nothing normal. I think I've said this before, but like even being on this road trip and having some of these guys not be able to travel, Hutch back in DC, and then, Arch and Sato and Lowry getting back to Chicago. And then, guys are just pretty much locked up in their rooms. There's very, very little anybody can do. The days are long for these guys. It's just a lot different. And, I think you're seeing across the league, I think everybody's trying really hard to make sure they're trying to keep, each other safe. But inevitably with the travel and with family and being around people, you're still in a position where, someone can test positive, and then obviously you got contract tracing, and then how much that impacts the rest of the group. So, I've said this before, we're not the only ones dealing with it. I think the entire league is dealing with it.
Thanks, Billy.
You're welcome.
Joe Cowley, go ahead.
Billy, you mentioned Hutch is still in DC. What is the plan to get him out of there? And is he in a hotel? What were the accommodations? Have you been able to talk to him to see how he's feeling and how his mental stability is holding up?
Yeah, to keep those guys engaged, we've tried to, in preparation before games, put them on a Zoom call so they can kind of feel like they're in the locker room and a part of it. Hutch should be getting back, this weekend from DC. Obviously there was a period of time there that I think he was really struggling with the way he felt. I think he's doing a lot better now. With Sato and Arch, those guys just trying to, keep them engaged as best we can until we get back. But we should have everybody back in Chicago by the time that we get back.
Cameron Buford, go ahead.
Hey, Coach. My question is, when you coach Paul George, he had career highs in steals, points, rebounds, free throw attempts. Though he had trouble in the shoulder issues. Were you aware of that? And do you use that tape to show Levine kind of what can be done in your system?
Paul, well, a couple things. One is I think that, he was dealing with the shoulder. We were not, and he was not putting himself in harm's way by any stretch of the imagination, but certainly, having to have operations on both shoulders and then trying to play. Now, I think that the year you're talking about, he was really playing at a very high level. I think he certainly was in the MVP conversation. Right when we came out of the All-Star break, I think it was Utah, we played them. It was a really hard-fought game. It was a double overtime game, I believe. And he drove baseline and kind of got fouled as he was going to dunk the ball. And the ball went against the side of the backboard, kind of jerked his arm back. And then he had tore the other shoulder. So really the last 27, 30 games of the year, he was playing with two torn shoulders. Now, I do think for him going into a new team and then having to rehab and having to have those surgeries, he missed a pretty important period of time with the Clippers last year. And I think it's very, very hard to acclimate, to a new team when you're not there. I'm sure, he's a lot more comfortable now. He had to deal with a lot of stuff. I think he probably missed the first month of the season. But I think when he's healthy and he's right, I think you see the way he's playing right now. I mean, he's obviously an elite player and a special player and a great guy. But he went through a lot. He had a play that, his last year in Oklahoma City, with 2 torn shoulders, then surgery, and then, goes to the Clippers and then misses training camp, misses a month of the season. Then he's trying to come back and find his rhythm. And, the team probably had their rhythm with the way they were playing. Guys are getting injected into the team. They were dealing with some different injuries. So there's a lot, I think, for anybody to go through when you're having to deal with what he had to deal with.
Thank you, Coach.
You're welcome.
Mark Medina, you're up next.
Hey, Billy, hope you're hanging in there through all these things.
Thank you.
So many protocols and restrictions when you're at home and on the road. But given you're in LA and the rate's been higher there's some more restrictions. Are there any additional things you guys have faced? And if so, what are they and how do you adjust to it?
No, this has been probably one of the more difficult cities that we've been in so far, LA, and rightfully so. To what you mentioned about the numbers, I think the hotels here have done a great job of trying to keep everybody safe. Just for example, like just even for staffing, being able to go to a workout facility. The other places we had, you could kind of go into a room. It was set up for, our staff, our organization. Here in this hotel, you have to basically assign a block of about 55 minutes. They don't want any more than one person in there at one time. So it's been pretty restrictive here, in LA, and rightfully so. The recommendations by everybody have been kind of to stay inside, stay in your room. And like I said earlier, I think that's been a lot for these guys to deal with and handle. But you can definitely feel the tightness here more so than maybe some of the other places that we've been to this point in time.
Kari Jones, go ahead.
What's going on, Coach?
I can't hear him.
Okay, I said we often talk about the challenges that the protocols has brought, but just from a recovery standpoint, with you guys having kind of the baseball format, can you speak on just how the guys are more healthy when they get off the road and being able to play, since they're able to stay in the cities multiple days?
Yeah, I mean, that part of it was good. That was one of the things I thought was really helpful in the bubble in Orlando is, you just totally eliminated travel, and that obviously takes a toll. But you're going to start to see, where you're going to, like we were in DC and we played them 2 games, although we're playing the Lakers and the Clippers, we're still staying in LA. So some of that travel certainly helps, I think, in terms of the guys' recovery and those kind of things. But, again, I think that, even though you're eliminating the travel, you're not eliminating, I think, the normal routines that these guys have normally been in, when they're on the road traveling. It's been a lot more difficult because there's really nothing else to do but stay in your room. And, guys obviously in a normal season, would be in their rooms, but, sometimes guys can break up the day a little bit. And, I think we're even concerned organizationally of trying to break up the day by taking the guys to a team dinner or taking the guys somewhere, because you just worry about bringing groups of people together. So we're just trying to do the best job we can to try to keep each other safe. But that piece of it, the travel piece is nice, but the other part of it is being on the road is long. I mean, it's a lot of long days.
All right, Coach, looks like we have one question left from Tim Bontemps.
Hey, Billy. Thanks for talking through all this stuff. I know it's obviously been a stressful start to the season for you guys on a lot of levels. On a very different note than all of this stuff, we've seen pretty crazy results from day to day across the league so far. There's been a lot of blowouts, a lot of surprise results. You guys obviously came back from a big deficit the other day in Portland. I was just curious if you had any sense of why maybe we've had more of a chaotic start on the court in terms of the way the results have gone compared to what it would seem to be in a normal season.
Yeah, I mean, this is just my opinion. I don't know it to be true. I think the first thing is you've got a much shortened training camp. I think you have a team like ours that really hasn't played in 9 months, had a little bit of a period of a bubble for about 8 or 10 days. You're getting a couple of preseason games and you're going right into it. I do think a lot of it is the mental toll and the difference of what each of these players is dealing with during the course of the season, because it is entirely different than what a normal season would be like, or a normal road trip or home game would be like. I do think the fact that they're getting up every morning and having to test, there's times that we're having to, even before we start a shoot around, if we got a shoot around at 10 o'clock, we've got to get everybody tested by the latest 8:30, and then you're waiting an hour for the results to come back, and guys are just sitting around and you can't reconvene. You're in a locker room situation. If it's too small, you got to find another room where all you can spread out. So there's just things that, you take for granted in a lot of respects that, you're having to be a lot more mindful of and pay attention to. And I just think it's totally different. Then you're dealing with some teams that have got players out and different players coming back and forth. I do think the shortened training camp in the preseason, I think guys are still trying to find their rhythms, still trying to find their conditioning. And then they're having to manage and deal with, a lot of these protocols that are in place that, are a lot different than any of us had to deal with.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
You're welcome, Tim. Thanks.
Okay, I think that's it. Thank you, Coach, for your time.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Billy. Thanks.